Lieutenant Commander Olivia Martinez wiped sweat from her brow as she looked through the microscope. The sample of human blood glowed faintly under the special light. She was not used to being the subject of her own research, but the Vorsidians had been very clear. They needed samples from every member of the human crew before talks could begin. "How much longer, Doctor?" Captain Sam Reeves asked from the doorway of the lab. "Almost done, Captain. Just finishing the last blood analysis they requested," Martinez replied without looking up. The United Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid had been in orbit around Vorsid Prime for 3 days. First contact with the crystalline beings had gone well, at first. The Vorsidians seemed peaceful, curious, and eager to establish relations with humanity. But then came their unusual request: a complete biological assessment of humans before any face-to-face meetings. Martinez sealed the last sample container and placed it in the diplomatic shuttle's storage unit. "That should satisfy their science team." "Let's hope so," Reeves said. "The Admiral is getting impatient. 3 days in orbit with no formal meetings is stretching protocol." 4 hours later, Martinez sat across from First Observer Torknal in the Vorsidian Science Facility. The alien's body shimmered like glass in the soft light, facets catching and reflecting colors in ways that human eyes found beautiful, but slightly disorienting. "Your samples have provided much insight, Lieutenant Commander," Torknal said through the translator device. His voice came out flat and mechanical, but Martinez could sense something like concern in the way his crystalline form shifted colors. "We have questions." "I'm happy to answer any questions about human biology," Martinez said with a smile. She had done this dozens of times with other species. It was part of her job as the ship's xenobiologist. "Your species consumes substances that would kill most sentient life forms," Torknal stated. "Caffeine, capsaicin, ethanol, these are defense chemicals. Why do you consume them for pleasure?" Martinez blinked. "Well, in small amounts, they're not harmful to us. We've evolved certain tolerances. You deliberately expose yourself to solar radiation to change your skin pigmentation," Torknal continued. "This damages your cellular structure." "Yes, sunbathing. It's cultural. We do have some biological repair mechanisms for minor damage." The questions continued for nearly an hour. With each answer, Martinez noticed the Vorsidian scientists in the room growing more agitated. Their crystalline bodies shifted colors more rapidly, some taking on dark red hues that hadn't been present before. "Is something wrong?" she finally asked. Torknal's form stilled. "We need to consult. Please wait." The Vorsidians huddled together, in the corner of the room. Their native language sounded like wind chimes mixing with whispers. Martinez couldn't understand a word, but she had been reading alien body language long enough to recognize distress. When they returned, the lead scientist's body had taken on a deep blue color that Martinez hadn't seen before. "We have reached a classification decision," Torknal announced. "All humans are to be designated under Threat Category Alpha." Martinez's diplomatic smile faltered. "I'm sorry. What does that mean?" "Your species presents unusual biological and behavioral patterns that our safety protocols cannot reconcile," Torknal explained. "You heal from injuries that would kill other species. You routinely consume toxins. Your endurance exceeds all known parameters for beings of your size. You're pain tolerant." The alien paused. "The data suggests things that are difficult to accept." "I assure you, we're peaceful," Martinez said, trying to keep her voice calm. "This was going badly. Your peaceful status is not relevant to the classification," another scientist added. "All unarmed human civilians are to be treated with the same caution as apex predator species. Your biological capabilities alone warrant this designation." Martinez felt her heart sink. This wasn't the first time humans had been viewed with suspicion by alien species, but a formal threat classification could set diplomatic relations back years. "Can I ask what triggered this specific designation?" she asked carefully. Torknal's form shifted again, displaying bands of yellow and deep purple. "You asked about our reproduction cycle, and we explained that our young require specialized Nutrient baths that must be maintained at exactly 32.4 degrees for 18 days. Yes, I remember, Martinez said, confused by the change of subject. You then mentioned that human females carry developing young inside their bodies for 266 days, with temperature variations, and while continuing normal activities including consuming toxins, engaging in physical exertion, and exposure to various environmental hazards. Martinez nodded slowly. That's correct. Pregnancy. When we expressed concern, you revealed that humans often continue working physically demanding jobs until days before birth, Torknall continued. You showed no awareness that this information would be disturbing. It's just how we reproduce, Martinez said. Precisely, Torknall replied. What your species considers normal biological function, we classify as extreme biological resilience beyond safety parameters. The fact that you consider these abilities unremarkable is even more concerning. Captain Reeves wasn't happy when Martinez reported back to the ship. His face grew redder with each detail she shared. So they think we're monsters? He demanded. Not exactly monsters, Martinez clarified. More like dangerous animals. They're not saying we're violent or aggressive. They're saying our basic biology makes us inherently threatening. They classified all humans, armed or unarmed, military or civilian, as apex predators. Admiral Ben Harris, watching via secure communication from Earth headquarters, rubbed his forehead. Can this classification be appealed? Martinez nodded. Yes, but they want more data. They've requested permission to observe human activities on the ship. Daily routines, exercise, meal preparation, even sleep patterns. Absolutely not, Reeves started, but the Admiral cut him off. Actually, Captain, I think we should agree, Harris said thoughtfully. If they're going to classify us as dangerous, let's show them exactly what humans are capable of. Both our strengths and our compassion, sir? Reeves looked confused. Lieutenant Commander Martinez, the Admiral continued, arrange for a Vorsidian observation team to come aboard. Show them everything. Our training, our medical facilities, our entertainment, our meals. Let them see what humans are really like. And, if they still think we're dangerous? Martinez asked. Admiral Harris smiled. Then we'll have to prove we're the most dangerous allies they could ever hope for. The galaxy is full of actual threats. Better they see us as capable protectors than weak prey. After the communication ended, Martinez stared out the viewport at the crystalline cities below. She wondered what the Vorsidians would think when they saw humans playing sports, cooking spicy foods, drinking coffee, and training in the ship's gym. Would it confirm their fears or challenge them? Tomorrow, she would find out. The Vorsidians were about to get a much closer look at humanity, for better or worse. Commander Frank Daniels rubbed his tired eyes. The blue light from the alien database terminal cast strange shadows across his face. He had been reading for 6 hours straight, and what he discovered left him feeling both amused and disturbed. You need to see this, he called to Science Officer Heather Nguyen, who was working at another terminal across the room. 6 months had passed since first contact with the Vorsidians. Despite the rocky start, diplomatic relations had slowly improved. As a gesture of goodwill, the Galactic Collective had granted the human delegation access to their biological database, a treasure trove of information about all known intelligent species in the charted galaxy. Nguyen walked over and leaned against Daniel's chair. What did you find? Our official classification, Daniels replied, pointing to the screen. It's interesting. Nguyen's eyes widened as she read the entry. Species, Homo sapiens, human. Classification, Death World Apex Predator. Class 1. Threat Assessment, Alpha Special. Note, only known species where unarmed civilians and military personnel present identical threat profiles. They can't be serious, Nguyen muttered. Daniel scrolled down to show her the detailed assessment. Oh, it gets better. Listen to this. He read aloud. Unique among known sapiens, humans evolved as persistence predators capable of pursuing prey until total exhaustion using minimal technology. Even unarmed humans exhibit alarming characteristics that place them among the galaxy's most dangerous life forms. The list that followed made both officers fall silent. Thermal regulation system allowing continuous motion for extended periods. Average human can remain active for 16+ standard hours. Extraordinary regenerative capabilities. Can recover from broken bones, deep tissue damage, blood loss up to 40%. Ability to function despite significant physical trauma. Chemical tolerance allowing consumption of substances toxic to 87% of sapient species. Pain suppression capabilities classified as extreme by collective standards. Sleep cycle requiring only 1/3 of standard day, with ability to function on reduced sleep for extended periods. Psychological resilience categorized as borderline. Pathological by collective medical standards. Nguyen let out a low whistle. They make us sound like monsters. Or superheroes, Daniels said with a slight smile. Depends on your perspective. The final section of the entry was labeled Containment Protocols, and it wiped the smile from Daniel's face. Warning: standard containment methods ineffective. All personnel must maintain safe distance from human subjects regardless of apparent armament status. Threat assessment does not decrease when subjects display friendly behavior or claim peaceful intent. Most dangerous when protecting young or other humans. Use of force against humans strongly discouraged as it typically escalates threat level. I don't know whether to be offended or flattered, Nguyen said, crossing her arms. They think we're dangerous even when we're trying to be nice. Daniels closed the file and opened another. I wanted to see how we compare to other species. Check this out. The new screen showed a comparison chart of all intelligent species known to the collective. Humans were clustered with beings that looked like nightmares, massive predatory species with natural weapons, toxic secretions, and armor-like skin. This doesn't make sense, Nguyen said, pointing to a small furry creature labeled as high threat alongside humans. What's so dangerous about that? Daniels checked the entry. Says here they secrete a neurotoxin that can kill in seconds. But that's my point. All these other species have obvious weapons, claws, venom, acid blood. We don't have any of that. So why are we classified with them? Before Daniels could answer, the door to the research room slid open. Ambassador Patrick. Gray entered, followed by 3 Vorsidian officials. The crystalline beings shimmered in the artificial light as they moved with careful grace, maintaining a noticeable distance from the humans. Commander Daniels, Officer Nguyen, Gray said formally. These are the Vorsidian science ministers. They've agreed to answer some of your questions about the database. The lead Vorsidian, whose form shimmered with blue-green light, stepped forward. I am Chief Scientist Zivla. You have concerns about your species classification? Daniels nodded. With all due respect, it seems extreme. We don't have natural weapons like the other species in our threat category. Zivla's crystalline form pulsed with light. Perhaps a demonstration would help you understand. Would you be willing? After Daniels agreed, the Vorsidians led them to a large observation room. Inside was what looked like a simple gym with various equipment. A screen on one wall displayed vital signs and other measurements. Please. Zivla gestured to a treadmill-like device. Run until you feel tired. Daniels looked at Gray, who nodded. The commander stepped onto the machine and began to run. 10 minutes passed, then 20. At 30 minutes, Daniels was sweating but still running steadily. Sufficient, Zivla finally said. Now, Officer Nguyen, please demonstrate your grip strength on this device. The tests continued for an hour. The Vorsidians measured their strength, endurance, reaction time, and pain tolerance. When Officer Nguyen calmly reported a pain level of 3 out of 10 after placing her hand in ice water for 2 minutes, the aliens' forms flickered in what seemed like alarm. Finally, Zivla showed them the results on a large display. Their measurements were compared to other species in the database. You see now? The alien scientist asked. Your endurance exceeds 92% of known intelligent species. Your grip strength, while not remarkable, is sufficient to break bones. Your pain tolerance. The Vorsidian paused. Most species would be incapacitated by stimuli you describe as uncomfortable. But we're not aggressive by nature, Nguyen protested. Humans value peace. Indeed, Zivla replied. And that is perhaps most concerning of all. You possess the physical capabilities of apex predators, yet choose when to use them. No other species in the database can claim the same. Your bodies are weapons you choose not to use. Until you do. Ambassador Gray cleared his throat. Perhaps, instead of focusing on what makes humans dangerous, we could discuss what makes us valuable allies. The Vorsidian scientist's form brightened. Yes, that is precisely why we have advocated for continued diplomatic relations despite the threat classification. Any species that can heal from severe injuries, function with minimal rest, and withstand environmental extremes would make formidable protectors. As they left the testing room, Daniels turned to Nguyen. I think I understand now. They're not afraid of us because we're monsters. No, she agreed. They're afraid of us because we're too much like them in the ways that matter, intelligent and capable of choice. But with bodies built for survival they can barely comprehend. Daniels nodded. And now we have to prove we're the best kinds of monsters to have on their side. The Vorsidian scientists watched the humans leave, their crystalline forms shifting with colors that reflected both caution and hope. In the database, behind them, the human classification remained unchanged, but a new note had been added. Preliminary evidence suggests potential for unprecedented alliance capabilities if trust can be established. The sharp beep of the emergency alert system woke Communications Officer Kyle Jackson from a sound sleep. He rolled out of bed and checked the time. 0300 hours. Something serious was happening. He pulled on his uniform and hurried to the communications center of the Earth Embassy on Galactic Station 7. What's going on? He asked the night shift operator. Distress call from mining outpost Epsilon 9, the operator replied, her face pale in the blue light of the monitors. It just came through on the emergency channel. Jackson slid into his chair and pulled up the message. The transmission was broken and full of static, but he could make out enough to feel his stomach drop. The remote mining colony, a joint operation, between humans and 3 alien species was under attack. Wake Ambassador Diana Ford, Jackson ordered. She needs to hear this now. 10 minutes later, Ambassador Ford stood in the communications center, her silver hair hastily pulled back, her face grim. She listened to the distress call twice before speaking. Play it again, she said. I want to be sure I'm not missing anything. Jackson nodded and replayed the message. Through the static and distortion, the voice of Colony Director Alan Gordon was clear enough. This is Mining Outpost Epsilon 9 requesting immediate assistance. We are under attack by Krell raiders. They disabled our orbital defenses and landed 6 ships. Security personnel engaged, but were overwhelmed. All security staff are dead or captured. They don't know about us yet. If anyone receives this, please send help. The civilian miners are preparing to... The message cut off there. Ambassador Ford stared at the screen for a long moment. How many people were stationed at Epsilon 9? She asked quietly. Jackson checked the database. 52 humans, mostly civilian miners and support staff. 37 aliens of various species. And how many were security personnel? 9 security officers total, 4 human, 5 alien. Ford nodded slowly. Send a message. To Earth Command. Request immediate dispatch of the nearest military vessel to Epsilon 9. Then contact the Galactic Collective Council. They need to know one of their mining outposts is under attack. What about the miners? Jackson asked. The Krell are known for their brutality. By the time help arrives, I know, Ford said, her voice tight. But there's nothing else we can do from here. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Earth Command responded quickly, diverting the military frigate Defender to Epsilon 9. But even at maximum speed, it would take them 26 hours to reach the mining outpost. The Galactic Collective dispatched their own response team, but they were even further away. Ambassador Ford didn't leave the communications center, waiting for updates. When the first report from a collective scout ship arrived, she was there, to receive it. Ambassador, the alien captain said via video link, we have arrived at Epsilon 9 and find a situation we cannot explain. Ford leaned forward. Are there survivors? Yes. All non-human personnel are accounted for and unharmed. They were locked in the habitat's secure area during the attack. And the human miners? The alien captain's face showed an expression that Ford had learned to recognize as confusion. They are all present as well, Ambassador. Some are injured but receiving treatment. And the Krell raiders? That is what we cannot explain, the captain said. We found 6 raider ships on the landing pad. All 43 Krell are either dead, seriously injured, or restrained in the colony's storage facilities. A stunned silence filled the room. Jackson exchanged glances with Ford. Are you saying the miners defeated the raiders? Ford asked carefully. It appears so, Ambassador. We are waiting for your military vessel to arrive before conducting a full investigation, as per protocol when dealing with human combat situations. 2 days later, Ambassador Ford and Security Chief Greg Lewis sat in the outpost's conference room. Across from them sat Alan Gordon, the colony director, his right arm in a sling and a fresh scar across his cheek. We need to understand what happened here, Director Gordon, Ford said gently. For the official report. Gordon looked confused. Not much to tell, Ambassador. When the raiders killed our security team, we knew we had to protect ourselves and the non-human staff. Your geological engineers, equipment operators, cooks, and medical staff, Lewis pointed out. Not soldiers. Gordon shrugged his good shoulder. We're human. Ford leaned forward. Please walk us through what happened. Gordon's story was simple but chilling. When the security team fell, the human miners gathered whatever tools they had, mining equipment, kitchen utensils, maintenance tools, and formulated a plan. They moved the non-human staff to the secure storage area, then prepared to defend their home. Mary Chen from the geology team figured out we could rewire the mining lasers to work as weapons, Gordon explained. Joe from the kitchen staff knew how to make pressure cookers into bombs. The medical team prepared stimulants to keep us alert and pain blockers in case we got hurt. You turned mining equipment into weapons? Lewis asked, his voice betraying his disbelief. We worked with what we had, Gordon replied. The Krell thought they'd finished off all resistance when they killed the security team. They weren't expecting the cooks and janitors to fight back. Ambassador Ford was quiet for a long moment. The Galactic Collective is struggling to understand how you manage this. The Krell are feared throughout the sector. They've wiped out military outposts 3 times this size. Gordon smiled slightly. They made a mistake. They thought because we weren't soldiers, we weren't dangerous. The report filed by the Galactic Collective Peacekeeping Force arrived on Ford's desk 2 weeks later. She wasn't surprised by their conclusion, but she was concerned about its implications. After thorough investigation of the mining outpost Epsilon 9 incident, it is the finding of this committee that no meaningful distinction can be made between human, civilian, and military capability from a tactical standpoint. All human gatherings, regardless of stated purpose, must be considered militarily significant in crisis situations. Footage recovered from outpost security systems shows unarmed human civilians displaying combat effectiveness equal to trained soldiers of other species. Of particular note is their ability to weaponize everyday tools and their apparent disregard for personal safety when protecting others. Recommendation: the current classification of all humans as Threat Category Alpha remains appropriate and necessary. Ford closed the report and sighed. The human miners had saved lives and protected their alien colleagues, but somehow this had only reinforced the galaxy's view of humans as inherently dangerous. She opened a channel to Earth Command. They needed to know that the gap between how humans saw themselves and how the galaxy viewed them was only getting wider, and something needed to change before that gap led to fear instead of respect. Senior diplomat Vincent Patel straightened his tie and checked his reflection in the mirror one last time. Today marked 3 years since he had arrived on Galactic Station Harmony to help improve relations between humans and the various alien species of the Galactic Collective. Progress had been slow but steady. Many species were starting to see humans as valuable allies rather than just dangerous predators. Ready for the big council meeting? Asked his assistant Lily Chen as she handed him a data tablet. As ready as I'll ever be, Patel replied with a smile. Today we might finally get the trade agreement approved. The Galactic Council chamber was an impressive sight. The massive circular room had seats for representatives of all 27 species in the collective. The central speaking area was surrounded by a shimmering blue force field, a ceremonial barrier that showed the speaker was protected by the collective will of all species. Patel and his team of 4 other human diplomats took their seats in the human section. Around them the chamber filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. The crystalline Vorsidians shimmered in the light. The massive, furry Ursans lumbered to their oversized chairs. The small, quick-moving Zephyrians darted between the larger species. "Order, please," called Council Chair Jortul, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and 4 arms. "Today we vote on the Earth Collective Trade Agreement, 3 years in the making." Patel felt a surge of pride. This agreement would open new markets for Earth goods and give humans access to advanced alien technology. More importantly, it would cement humanity's place in the galactic community. The meeting had been underway for barely 20 minutes when the first alarm sounded, a harsh blaring noise that made several species cover their hearing organs. "Security breach," announced the automated system. All delegates remained calm. Patel felt a chill run down his spine. Something was very wrong. The plasma barriers around the council chamber should be impenetrable. "Stay seated," he told his team quietly. "Security will handle this." But even as he spoke, the massive doors to the chamber burst open. A group of armed figures rushed in, wearing the distinctive red armor of the Proxima Separatists, a radical group that opposed the collective's authority. "The barriers have failed," gasped one of the Vorsidian representatives, its crystalline form turning a dark, fearful red. Patel watched in horror as the security forces at the doors fell under the attackers' weapons. The chamber erupted in panic. Most of the alien representatives froze or tried to hide under their seats. It was their natural response to danger, to become still and hope the threat would pass. But Patel and the other humans reacted differently. Without a word between them, the 5 human diplomats moved with surprising speed and coordination. Patel's training from 20 years ago kicked in like it was yesterday. He had been a security officer before becoming a diplomat, and his body remembered what to do. "Get down," he shouted to the nearest alien delegates as he flipped over the heavy stone table in front of them to create cover. Nearby, Amanda Walsh, the trade specialist from his team, had already grabbed a decorative metal staff from the wall and was moving toward one of the attackers. Patel watched in a split second as she swung the staff with practiced precision, knocking the weapon from the attacker's hands. On the other side of the room, Ben Carson, the youngest member of the human delegation, had somehow reached the refreshment table. He hurled the heavy metal serving trays at the attackers with remarkable accuracy, striking one in the head and stunning him. Patel himself was moving now, sliding across the polished floor to reach a fallen security officer. He grabbed the officer's stun baton and rolled to his feet in one smooth motion. The next 2 minutes felt like hours. The 5 unarmed human diplomats moved with coordination that would have impressed military commanders. They used furniture, decorative items, and even their formal clothing as weapons and shields. Patel felt a burning pain as a glancing shot hit his shoulder, but he pushed through it, focusing on protecting the frozen alien delegates. When the station's security backup finally arrived, they found 7 Proxima Separatists subdued or unconscious, and the human diplomat standing guard over them, improvised weapons still in hand. Later in the medical bay, Patel sat quietly as a doctor treated the plasma burn on his shoulder. The door slid open and Council Chair Jortul entered, flanked by security. "Senior Diplomat Patel," Jortul said formally. "The Council wishes to express its gratitude for your actions today. You and your team saved many lives." Patel nodded. "We did what anyone would do." Jortul's 4 hands made a complex gesture that the translator interpreted as deep confusion. "That is precisely what concerns us. What your kind considers normal, the rest of the galaxy considers extraordinary." "I don't understand," Patel said. "You were unarmed diplomats," Jortul stated. "Yet you fought with greater effectiveness than most trained security forces. You showed no fear. You protected others before yourselves. And when we reviewed the security footage, we saw that you did this without verbal communication between yourselves." Patel shrugged, then winced as the movement pulled at his injury. "We saw people in danger, we acted." "Yes," Zurtul replied. "That is what makes your species so unique, so valuable, and so frightening." The following day, Patel was called to an emergency session of the Collective Security Council. He expected a debriefing about the attack. Instead, he found himself the subject of the meeting. "We have reviewed the events of yesterday," announced the head of the Security Council, a gruff Ursan named Groll, "and we have reached a unanimous conclusion." Patel waited, unsure what was coming. "The distinction between armed and unarmed humans is meaningless," Groll continued. "Your people turn everyday objects into weapons. Your bodies themselves are weapons. Your instincts are those of warriors, regardless of your training or stated profession." "With respect," Patel began. "We are not criticizing," interrupted Zurtul. "We are acknowledging reality. From this day forward, all human representatives will be classified as potential security assets. And yes, as potential threats, but also as our most valued protectors." As Patel left the council chamber, he felt conflicted. The trade agreement had been unanimously approved, a direct result of the humans' actions during the attack, but the price was a deepening of the galaxy's view that humans were dangerous by their very nature. His communication device beeped with a message from Earth Command. "Situation developing in Sector 9. Unknown vessels approaching collective space. All diplomats on standby." Patel sighed. It seemed the galaxy would soon have another opportunity to see just how dangerous humans could be when they had something worth protecting. Fleet Admiral Sofia Rodriguez stood tall as she entered the massive chamber of the Galactic Collective's Emergency Council. The room fell silent. Every representative from the 27 member species watched her with a mixture of hope and fear. Behind her, a large view screen showed a terrifying sight: the Harvester Fleet. Thousands of black, jagged ships moving through space like a swarm of hungry insects. "Admiral Rodriguez," said Shinar, the Collective's supreme military commander, "thank you for coming so quickly." Rodriguez nodded. She had traveled for 3 days in a high-speed diplomatic vessel to reach this meeting. The situation was becoming more desperate by the hour. "Let me be direct," Shinar continued, his forearms moving in patterns that conveyed his distress. "Our defensive line cannot hold against the Harvesters. Our best models predict complete galactic extinction within 5 standard years." The room erupted in worried murmurs. The Harvesters had appeared 6 months ago from the depths of uncharted space. They weren't interested in communication or negotiation. They consumed all resources in their path: planets, moons, asteroids, and any living thing they encountered. 3 collective battle fleets had already fallen trying to stop them. "That's why I've come with a proposal," Rodriguez said when the noise died down. "Earth is ready to deploy 40 million human civilians to the front lines." Confusion spread through the chamber. A Vorsidian representative's crystalline form flashed bright red with alarm. "Civilians? Against Harvesters?" the Vorsidian asked, voice crackling through the translator. "That's not a strategy, Admiral, that's genocide." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "No, it's humanity." She stepped forward and activated her data tablet. The large screen behind her changed to show images of humans from all walks of life: teachers, farmers, office workers, doctors, artists, all in basic training formations. "For generations, you've classified our unarmed civilians the same as apex predators," Rodriguez explained. "You weren't wrong. You just didn't understand why." The plan she outlined was unlike anything the Collective had considered. Massive transport. Ships would carry millions of human volunteers, ordinary citizens with minimal military training, to form a defensive line against the Harvesters. They would be equipped with adapted mining tools, industrial equipment, and other repurposed technology. "This is madness," said Groll, the gruff Ursan security chief. "Your people will be slaughtered." "Some will die," Rodriguez acknowledged, her voice solemn. "But throughout human history, When faced with extinction, ordinary people have done extraordinary things. After hours of debate, the collective council reluctantly approved the plan. They had no better options. The existing military forces were failing, and time was running out. 2 weeks later, the first wave of human transports arrived at the front. 10 million civilians with just enough training to operate their equipment. The alien military commanders watched with disbelief as farmers, teachers, and office workers prepared to face the most deadly force the galaxy had ever known. The battle began at dawn, standard time. The harvester ships moved forward, their black hulls absorbing all light. They had never been stopped before. They had no reason to expect this time would be different, but it was. The human ships did not form neat battle lines like the collective military. They swarmed like insects, small craft darting between the massive harvester ships, mining lasers repurposed as weapons cut through armor. Civilian pilots performed maneuvers that professional military pilots would consider suicidal. When a human ship was damaged, the crew would often direct it straight into a harvester vessel, turning their defeat into one final attack. The harvesters had never encountered this behavior before. Their calculations could not predict it. On the command ship, Admiral Rodriguez watched the battle unfold with Supreme Commander Shinar. "They're sacrificing themselves," Shinar said quietly. "Why would civilians do this?" "Because they choose to," Rodriguez replied. "That's what makes us different. We decide what's worth dying for." The battle raged for 6 days. Millions of humans died. But when it ended, the impossible had happened. The harvester advance had been stopped for the first time. 6 months later, as the defeated harvester remnants retreated into deep space, the collective's xenobiologists finalized their updated classification of humanity, the only known species, in which the distinction between civilian and warrior is philosophical rather than biological. Their evolutionary path as cooperative predators has created a species that is simultaneously the galaxy's most empathetic ally and most formidable defender. Previous classification error noted, humans are not dangerous because they are predators. They are dangerous because they choose when to be predators. Their capability for violence is matched only by their capability for sacrifice. All human gatherings should be considered both cultural and military assets of irreplaceable value to the collective. In her office on the rebuilt Galactic Station Harmony, Admiral Rodriguez read the new entry and smiled. The view screen on her wall showed the construction of a memorial, a massive sculpture showing a human farmer, teacher, and medic standing alongside a human soldier, all facing outward in a protective circle around representatives of every collective species. "Admiral," her aide said as he entered the room, "the Collective Council is waiting. They want to discuss the new Joint Defense Initiative." Rodriguez nodded and stood. "Do you think they understand us now?" she asked. The young aide thought for a moment. "They're getting closer," he said. "But I don't think they fully grasp that we're not dangerous because we can fight." "No," Rodriguez agreed as they walked toward the council chamber. "We're dangerous because we decide what's worth fighting for. And once we decide that something is worth protecting..." She left the thought unfinished as they entered the chamber. The representatives of 27 alien species rose to greet her. Not with fear, as they once might have, but with respect. They had finally learned the truth about humanity, that the same qualities that made humans dangerous predators also made them the most devoted protectors the galaxy had ever known. The classification remained unchanged, the only species where unarmed civilians and deadly predators were categorized the same. But now, everyone understood why that was not a contradiction, but humanity's greatest strength.